Hello, and welcome to the Employee Visitation Suite, where we address all of your mammalian concerns. My name is Ebube, and you are listening to Popcorn for Dinner. This episode is one that I would describe as quietly chaotic in the best of ways. We're all on field trips. Everybody has some kind of objective. Somebody is definitely lying, Helly. And honestly, there's a lot to unpack here, especially since I personally need to know where Miss Coel is going and why she decided to come back. Her days might be numbered. I'm not sure, but thankfully, I'm not going to figure it out alone because I have Chinedu here with me once again, along with AJ. Hi, guys. How are we doing?
I'm good.
We're good.
Great start to a Monday. Ready to unpack another good episode of TV.
You know, the show just keeps getting better and better. And I have thoughts on that, actually, the fact that it keeps getting better and better, because some people are starting to disagree. I know, it's crazy. I have finally found a Severance dissenter. Somebody disagrees. So this person, I saw this person on the interwebs. This isn't somebody that I know in real life, but he
Good,
essentially was talking about. He was discussing in a kind of fairly nuanced, I guess, arguments. I'll give him points for that. He was discussing how he thinks people are going to turn on the show before the end of the season because the show may be leaning a little bit too hard into mystery box tactics. That's not really how he said it, but that's pretty much the gist of it. He talked about the ratio of questions to answers in the show. And according to him, Severance, for every 10 questions it asks, will only release like one answer or something like that, which in a sense is true, especially when you look at season 1. And he said that at some point people are going to get tired. But as it turns out, that's not how I feel. I don't think that's how you guys feel. I think that the show still works and is able to keep people's attention because it's not really designed for, let's just say, short attention span type of viewing. I think the show is designed for people who want to invest, and it invites you to unpack it. So because this is the first dissenter, that means everyone I've ever seen up until this point is enjoying this show. So I don't feel like his theory holds up in real life because it seems like the answers were enough for everybody and people are enjoying the new questions. But after hearing all that, I wanted to ask you guys, do you think the show is not giving us enough answers at a good enough rate? Like, do you feel like it's just getting frustrating? Because I don't feel that way.
I would say, well, firstly, I did think of what he said, the points. It's funny because I opened my phone this afternoon, can't remember. But yeah, I opened it and I saw there was a headline I saw from one of the outlets, can't remember if it's Variety or one of them. Essentially, they said Severance would do well to not fall into this trap. And I didn't open it. But the first thing I thought of that could be the only valid criticism that the show can have is that it's becoming too much of a theoretical show where people are, spitting conspiracies all over the interwebs. It is valid. It's a valid criticism, but it's not something that I would say I feel. It's not something that I would say it's not good enough for me. I think it's too early to push that criticism onto the show because it's only episode 3 and it goes up to 8 if I'm not wrong. So
it's actually 10 this season. Season 1 was 9 and this season they're doing even more. It's going to be 10.
Exactly. So we have seven more hours of TV essentially to answer questions. I think if you get to 8 and 9 and then you're still in doubts of a lot of things, then I can see where you're coming from. But they're essentially giving you building blocks. Well, if you're unhappy about how slow it is, then yeah, I guess so. But not for me anyways. Long story short.
I feel for me, it's more so like, I don't fully agree with them, but I feel like they have valid points. More so along the lines of, it's so many questions, and are we going to be okay with the answers or waiting so long for the answers? Because we could get to episode 7 or 8 or 9 and they tell us, okay, this happened because of this. And we're like, that doesn't make sense. Or I don't want this to be the answer. So I feel like that's my concern. Because there's so many questions, like episode by episode, we're like, okay, I'm more confused. And it's nice, like on the interwebs, like there's like lots of theories and it's fun doing all of that. But it's only so long we can wait for answers as well, because if they're hoping for like 4 or 5 seasons, I don't think we're going to get a lot of answers this season, even if we have 7 more episodes. And that's already frustrating to me because I don't want to wait 2 more years or 3 more years, for like the next season to get answers. Like, it's frustrating. I guess it's like edging. It doesn't feel good sometimes. So, like, I need answers and I can only wait so long.
No, I understand you. In fact, that was part of the dude's argument. He was saying that even if people like the fact that new questions keep coming, because there is so much time being spent on building up the questions, it will reach a point where no answer will ever live up to the hype. Because the premise of the show in the end, it's genius. It's a genius premise, but it's a fairly simple premise when you think about it. It's just one of those things. Like, it's like when songwriters hear like an amazing song that is actually very simple and they're like, oh my God, I wish I could have written that. Like, that's Severance feels like that sometimes. It's like, this is such an amazing idea, but it's partly amazing because it's kind of so simple, right? This is a very straightforward thought that can then snowball into so many amazing other ideas that can build around it. So that's an interesting way to look at it, that we would get to a point where the hype is not enough because it's like, oh, so that's it, you know? But I kind of trust that it will hopefully be more. For example, in a recent interview, the cast, they were being asked about fan theories, and there's this very popular one that what Lumen is actually doing is perfecting clone technology, and Miss Casey is like version 0 or something like that. And Adam Scott, who plays Mark, his response was, that sounds like what Lumen would be doing in a very, very boring version of Severance. So that's very encouraging to me, because it's like, okay, great. But some people heard that and were like, nah, he's trying to cover his tracks.
It's given the last Spider-Man movie, where do it all lying to us?
Oh my God. Yeah, like it's crazy.
What I would say is that before the show came out, all the journalistic reviews I saw gave it raving plaudits. And honestly, I'll let them cook. So
100%. 100%.
We're not even halfway through. So
literally,
I understand, but let's let them cook.
Yeah, because they gave critics the first 6 episodes, and I haven't seen a single dissenting word about those 6 episodes. In fact, people like them more than than season 1. I saw one review that was like, Severance season 2 comes with exactly the same level of mystery and magic. Like, it essentially continues from where it left off. It's not trying to be more. It just is more because it's continuing from where it left off, and that's a good thing. So yeah, before we get into the episode itself, hi everyone listening. Thank you so much for being with us and actually watching Severance. We would like you to go ahead and check out some of the other stuff that we're doing. We have a few things coming up in the coming weeks. Invincible coverage is going to be starting soon, so get excited for that. Bankole and I just talked about Sing Sing and movies that inspire people to feel artistic or creative. It was a very interesting discussion about how art in media is displayed, how it is portrayed, and what that can do to creative people in a good way. It's pretty fun, actually. Speaking of Bankole, he's actually going to be on P. Pepper's live stream, one of our friends. They're going to be discussing episode 3 of Severance season 2. And you should go ahead and watch that right after you listen to us, or maybe before, depending on when it airs. So get excited for that too. Now, where should we start today? How about the beginning or the near beginning? Our favorite cool kid, Mr. Milchick, rides in on his motorcycle because he's just that cool. And then he shows up, he takes off his leather jacket, he's about to put on his suit, and guess who's in his office? Natalie, maybe not our friend. So she sits there and she welcomes him. And I think before we even get into some of the stuff she said, is it just me? Or were you guys wondering, has her smile always been this creepy?
Yes. Easy. From season 1, I'm like, you're giving me PTSD, you know, like, let me know. Anyways, is all those evil corporate ladies, that's like who she embodies.
Are
like,
you traumatized?
I am. Like, I'm like, I'll strangle you, get off my screen. But anyways.
Man, Natalie was something else in this episode. She's so effective. I mean, Chinedu, what did you think?
Yeah, it was so strange. The second time watching, I think, was even weirder for me. Just watching, it was very uncomfortable. I do agree with you that it didn't seem that uncomfortable last season. Definitely. I think it's because she wasn't
Of
smiley
silence.
at all with Coel. She always came in to scold Coel. So now this is the first time we're seeing her deliver good news, in a sense. Or maybe I'm
Good
wrong,
news.
but yeah, one of the few times we're seeing her deliver good news. Yeah, I thought that the entire scene itself, I felt like there was a lot to unpack there between both of them.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack. And then there's a lot to unbox because she delivers a literal package. Okay. Seth Milchick, and she calls him Seth, which is interesting. Nobody calls him Seth. He gets this, let's call it a DEI care package from Lumen, who is essentially trying to make sure that they're taking care of their non-white employees, especially the ones in management. So what did you guys feel about what was in this box? Because this is where the chaos actually starts. This is why the episode is quietly chaotic, because I was like, there is no way they sent this guy Black Kier. And she mentioned all the cycles of Kier, just to tell you about their quote-unquote religion/cult. Kier being born, Kier going to school, Kier standing on the mountaintop with his boots before he starts flying around. Like, there's a black version of that now. And they go on to tell us that Natalie received the same gift. So, bro, was hers a black woman? Help me understand.
Was a
biracial woman. Anyways.
Oh my God. That's true. Yes, exactly. Like, would they have changed the complexions? There's too many questions just from this. I don't know. What did you guys feel? Were you creeped out or were you just laughing?
Yeah, I definitely was laughing. I think every person who's worked in a corporate space with white people has experienced that kind of reduced to your color situation before. There's a story that popped up in my head. I don't know if I should tell it for fear of the people that actually like
the ops
that would listen to it. Not even the ops, man. Oh my God. But don't worry, I'll say that story another day. But yeah, I think it was definitely weird, and I don't know if he actually liked it, to be very honest. I was looking at his facial expressions very closely. It's one of those, when you receive a gift from someone and you don't really like it, but you're just trying to put on a face. That's what I felt from him. And maybe it's because I've been seeing a lot of ideas, thoughts about the humanization of Milchick and how he's not really a villain and he's actually out for himself, not the company. So maybe that played in the back of my head, watching him react to that. Possibly, yeah.
I mean, that would make sense. because Tremel Tillman is the guy who plays Milchick is very thorough. And one thing I like about him is that he thinks of Milchick's psyche, not just from Milchick's perspective, but from everyone else's. And Severance does actually have an official podcast that they're doing now. They started just before season 2, and now they're covering every episode as it comes out. It's hosted by Adam Scott and Ben Stiller, so it is actually interesting. They have all the people who are on the show coming in to say their piece. And in the one they did for season 2, episode 1, they actually had Mr. Milchick himself, Tremel Tillman. And one thing that stood out to me in that discussion is that when they asked, or at least when they discussed his casting and what it was like for him to take on the role, he said that one of the first questions he had for Ben Stiller was, does Milchick know he's black? And that's very cool, because Milchick could exist as somebody who maybe hasn't been exposed to a lot of other people of color, or doesn't understand the significance of the color of his own skin, especially given his role within this organization. Or Milchick could be somebody who's like, I'm just trying to rise, I have ambition, but I have to deal with a bunch of stuff as a black man in order to get there, right? So which one do you guys think Milchick is? I mean, based on Chinedu's response just now and what you were just saying that you saw on his face, maybe he's the latter. Maybe this is part of the road to kind of unpacking Milchick's layers over time. Maybe he is just a guy who's frustrated. He's trying to go home to actually like chill and like, I don't know, maybe he has like a wife or a partner at home or something.
I don't think he has a family. The guy moves around with a bike. No,
that's very true.
Yeah, no. But I feel like Milchick knows he's black because those corporate like black men that haven't been around black people, like they've only been around white people, they're usually more goofy. But he carries himself in a way that's like very upright, very like my mom is black type.
You're right. Exactly.
Way. And I feel like what confirmed it for me was like when after like the board they left and it was just him and Natalie, he looked at her and like you could see like they were having that black conversation where he's like
with their eyes,
girl,
right?
Like with their eyes, like girl, are you serious? Like, did they actually do this? So like that kind of like confirmed it to me that like he realized that like he's not severed, but he's still very much a slave. And like what they did, like not slave like racially, but like a slave to women.
Like a worker ant essentially. Is what you mean.
Like yes, he's like in management now, but like still there's still like a chain on his neck because it's like, wow, like after all I've done, especially all he did episode 2, they give him pictures with black hair. Like that's tokenism. You're not appreciating me for my work. You're kind of like, it wasn't genuine. It was more so like
their gift is literally a celebration of Lumen.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, like you did a good job. It's more so like a tap on the back, but in a very like
it's like you can be one of us too way. If you think really, really hard.
Yeah, like hair can be black if you walk well. Like it was so weird.
That's so crazy. And even Natalie's words, she was like, the board would like me to relay to you that I got this gift. She's not like, oh bro, I got this gift too. Like she's like, the board wants me to tell you that they also gave me this gift and I really liked it when that happened. Yeah. I was like, what's going on? What a way to start this episode. I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah, that's an interesting analysis of the scene, to be fair, because all that was playing in my head was why she was calling him by his first name. What kind of relationship they had.
I thought about that too.
All of this. Yeah.
Maybe they're friends outside.
Exactly. Obviously, we can see that there's that. Did they really just do that shit? But then also, what dynamic do they have outside of this? Yeah, because, and then it also made me think, is Natalie severed? because Natalie at the
baby's
season
not just
finale,
okay.
season 1.
I feel like AJ is so traumatized. Like I don't know. At some point we might have to unpack all of AJ's corporate trauma.
No, I mean season 1. Especially the season finale, I always just weigh that person that was out there with the person that was in that is in Lumen's building. You know, the person that was calming Helly down, or Helena. She was calming Helena down, you know, telling her, you know, just follow the script and yada, yada, yada. She had everything put together. This person seems like a mindless robot. I don't know if it's just me, but maybe we can find out later.
I actually think she's not severed. I think that this is how she is. I think AJ is right. The baby's not okay. I think in all honesty, she's been the same person. Because before we even get a chance to see Natalie talking to Coel or meet her inside Lumen, we see her on TV. Mark is watching her while he's drinking at night, and she's arguing with some guy on the news about, you know, basically why severance should be allowed and people should be able to make their own decisions to do it, even though she doesn't go ahead and mention that they're being coerced. But you know what? Let's actually dive deeper into Natalie and her outside life, because we do see a lot of her in this episode. She's in Devon's house talking to Ricken, because it's cool to me that the show is aware that one of the biggest reasons for the OTC debacle and just the fallout of it from last season, one of the biggest reasons for it is Ricken's book, The You Are, right? And, you know, there's an episode 4 of season 1 is titled after that book. And episode 9, the finale, is titled The We Are, because of how much it has impacted the innies, such that they're able to, you know, move to this place of rebellion. So, of course, the company is now aware of this book. They are aware of what it did, because everybody inside Lumen who is severed is able to work the way they do because they've been fed Kier's doctrines. Remember, these people are essentially toddlers. Like, they've been here like 2 years, 3 years max. Alicia, you know, old lady that she is, has been there 6 years, as we learn in this episode. But despite that, nobody has been severed that long, and they've only been taught the teachings of Kier. So when they get the teachings of Ricken, it literally, like, to us, again, this book, insanely dumb. Like, one of the lines they read from, they're talking about how beer does not actually help you, like, what was it that, I don't remember exactly what was saying, but he said that beer basically is for poor people, and then wine is only affordable to the people with money. So this is why sadness, which is cured by wine, is an issue mostly for the poor. And I'm like, okay, Ricken, but I know that any Mark would have read that and be like, oh my goodness. And I know that any Dylan would have been like, oh my God, they have wine, you know, like, like literally. So and I love that transition from, you know, Dylan reading that book in his house to, you know, that line being sort of gone over by the people in the news scene. And Natalie, of course, is sitting there in the house and she's doing her thing. It's like, okay, what kind of employee is she? Is she simply somebody who cares about Lumen to the core? Is she going with emotions because she has something that she wants to achieve? Or is she essentially just like also a fixer? Like, I thought she was kind of like a press secretary type of person or a spokesperson, but she is also kind of a fixer, because why is she going out to get Ricken? And Ricken, dumbass that he is, does not realize that this is like a takeover of sorts. It's like, oh, want you to write a version of this book for innies. It's like, so now they can go to the innies and be like, yes, you can read Ricken's book, but they're not going to know that the book has been completely transformed to reflect the view of Kier. So yeah, I think Natalie is kind of not okay, but also okay because she likes what she's doing.
Fair.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Fair. I think Ricken is also an excellent comic relief in the show. He I would struggle to see anyone that he doesn't.
Good in this role,
bro. Trust me, he cracks me up so much. You know, when his wife comes in and she's trying to
marry Devon.
Yeah, she's trying to understand the situation,
Bro,
and
not only
he's
did he
saying the
marry
important
Devin.
thing is my book.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, like literally, it's like, bro, what's wrong with you? What's actually wrong with you? Because, and I feel the same way AJ does, because it's like, not only did he marry Devin, like she had a child with him.
yeah,
Like she carried this guy's baby for 9 months
yeah.
and is
Hey,
now
look,
taking care of said
women
baby.
like funny guys.
And she walks into her house to find Natalie sitting there. She's just like, bro, what fresh hell is this? Like, what's going on?
Oh my God.
Wow, Mark's family is very interesting, and
Very
unfortunately,
interesting.
his innie is not really gonna know because his innie is too busy looking for goats. So, what did you guys think of the field trip?
It was given very much. What's it called? The movie, the A24 movie with Florence Pugh, like Midsummer. No, it wasn't. Yeah,
Yes,
Midsummer.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm like, what do you mean the bells? And then the guy with the goat's outfit, and like we have what's her name, Gwendolyn Christie
finally makes her appearance. Yeah, Brienne of Tarth herself.
Like, this is so weird. And then the name of the department, Mammalian, what's it called? The name of the goats department. Like, why are you nurturing goats, Lumen? Like, what is happening? It was so twisted. And then the final scene where they're like, can we see your bellies? And then they're like, you see no pouches. Why are they looking for pouches?
Exactly, because it's not like goats have pouches. I mean, are they thinking of kangaroos?
Like, what is going on? Like, and also I was thinking, like, how do they hire then? How do they hire this one person? And they're like, okay, yeah, you fit perfectly well in this department, or you fit perfectly well in what's it called, MDR, or like mammalian nurturables. Like, Lumen is just so complicated to me. Like, I would be severed. Like, I want to be severed to just like find out like what's in heaven's name are you guys doing in this building? Because it's also complicated and twisted.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting how whenever a department crosses into another, the first thing is, are you here to kill me, or what are you looking for here?
No, literally, it's like, are you here to... Wow, that's so true, bro. Because of these lies.
It's as if they're seeing a war coming or something, you know? So, yeah, I think her first reaction to that just says a lot about what the company tells the employees and the different departments as well. Nobody knows what the other department knows. They don't know what they do. I don't even think we definitely didn't find out why they had goats there.
We're not going to know that for a while, but this is definitely part of their whole, indoctrination scheme, where they tell each department that the other department is very dangerous because they don't want them to cross paths. Like, even we didn't know that such a department existed. We knew there was a goat guy, but we didn't know that there was like a whole team. Bro, she had an office table. She had a desk in that place, like on the grass. So like, where do they enter? Like, where's their own elevator? Like, is it all inside that place? Does that guy, the good guy, does he just like wake up inside that good costume all the time? Does he even know what his own skin looks like? Like, these like, this is crazy.
Oh my God.
This is crazy because
they think
remember
they're
the paintings,
goats?
right? Maybe he does. Maybe that guy does. Maybe some of the other people do as well. Like, because obviously we've been told of optics and design and MDR. So you would think those were the only real departments, right? But at the same time, there's this new department that we've now seen is an actual department and not just some guy in a room, right? So who knows what they've been told? I mean, it's possible that the reason they thought they had pouches is because they told them that MDR people had pouches. So yeah, it's interesting because they know Miss Casey as well. So
yeah,
the implications of that are kind of fun to sink our teeth into, right? Because this whole time it would seem that Miss Casey was kind of an MDR haunt. She was there in order to test them and for them to kind of help with testing her by interacting with her. And we know that Mark is obviously very important to whatever they're doing. especially since we now know that, I mean, they've had different names of like their projects, but this one is Cold Harbor, right? They're trying to finish the Cold Harbor file. I wonder what those other files have meant. Cold Harbor could mean a bunch of different things. I have some ideas, but I think learning that Miss Casey was also serving the other departments as their wellness person is something that expands the scope of what Lumen might actually be trying to do with her. Maybe the whole clone thing is true, but at the same time, like, we now know, for example, that these people are severed. So it's like whatever they are doing with the goats must be important to whatever Cold Harbor is, because if it wasn't, they wouldn't need to be severed. You know?
Yeah.
So this is all part of the same severed floor as they call it. It's like its own little world that keeps expanding from its corridors. I feel like if we keep these departments in mind and all the things that they know and how that information is fragmented, we get a chance to actually fill in some of the gaps, or think that we are getting to a point where we may fill in some of the gaps. Because Irving goes on his own field trip as well, right? He meets up with Felicia and they reminisce about Bert, who, tragically enough, is their dead friend now. That's what he is now. They talk about him like he's someone
gone.
who died, because he is. Like, Audi Bert, if Audi Bert doesn't come back in here, any Bert is gone. Like, he's retired, as they call it. And as Milchick told the MDR team in season 1, death is not a thing that happens in here.
That
Death
was so
happens
creepy.
outside. Thank you very much. I'm here all week, folks. So death is not a thing that happens actually inside. So these people see it as retirement, but obviously Irving was going through a lot towards the end of last season and the beginning of this season, because the person he was in love with was essentially about to die. And he asked them, you know, at that retirement party, y'all just going to stand there and let him die? And Irving, because he now understands that this is basically the end of his life, like, if he retires, he tries to walk outside and never come back. And Dylan stops him, like he was being suicidal in episode 1, because it was that difficult for him. And that's very significant. So now Felicia and Irving are talking about Bert in this way, and I'm glad that they have happy memories. But the end of that conversation leads to that elevator that goes down to the testing floor. What did you guys think of what Felicia actually said? Because she knows about it. That's not something I expected.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's a very big mystery. She said someone used to take things down there, and then all of a sudden they stopped.
They started sending a guy.
They started sending, they used to take things down there.
Yeah, they used to go there, but then they started sending someone. So why that change? And when did that change happen?
For the life of me, I have no idea. The way she recognized it, though, you just know that they have some sinister suspicions about what is going on there. And it's O&D. What would they be delivering there? I think that's what the real question should be. Yeah. She didn't give any hints as to what they would be taking down there.
You know, like, I started thinking about the whole cloning theory. I feel like O&D, because, you know, they make copies, they print stuff. What if they print people and they deliver people to the testing floor? I don't know. I'm just thinking.
So my follow-up question to that would be, do they know that they're printing people?
I mean, because she said it was so much fear in her heart. Like, how do you know about like this? So it's like, I feel like they know, or maybe, you know, like how like the numbers, they feel fear sometimes or joy or whatever when they see the numbers. So I feel like sometimes they print something and they don't know what they print, but sometimes they print things that make them feel scared and they have to send it to the floor. I don't know. I'm just thinking, but I was like, why are you saying it with so much like fear? Like, what do you send down there? And for her to like also say, okay, they stopped us from going back there and now they send a guy. She would have said like, oh, they send like, you know, like she said a guy, like, oh my God, the devil. Like, I'm like, ma'am, are you okay? But like, I don't know. I wonder.
What did you think it would be?
I feel like the testing floor. Well, first of all, I feel like she doesn't necessarily know that it's the testing floor. I feel like she doesn't know necessarily that Miss Casey goes down there. She may not know that people live there, but it's possible she does because clearly they were sending things there. Maybe it is body parts. Maybe it is blueprints for bodies that are being cloned, right? Assuming that theory actually holds up, but we don't know. Either way, Felicia knows more stuff. And I'm very curious to learn if she explained any of it to Irving. Because what would Irving do with that information? Would he immediately tell the others? I mean, Irving, I know he's been going through a lot lately, but he's kind of been dropping the ball and fumbling the bag when it comes to team objectives lately. Like, they told you, go outside and tell as many people as possible about what's happening on the 7th floor. And he immediately goes to find Bert at his house. So, I like, of course, Audi Irving is up to something too, because, you know, when Irving gets to the elevator, he's still screaming, Bert, 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 right? But when Milchick goes to Irving's house on the outside, he's there. So that means that he was lying because he said that he'd been, obviously we knew that because he said that he had been present the whole night watching TV, but he obviously found himself at Bert's door, gathered himself, maybe even talked to Bert, and maybe that's why Bert's following him now, and then came home. So there's a lot happening regarding these characters and like how they're kind of intertwining with their Audis. And I have thoughts on that regarding Mark I'll get to in a second. But as far as these elevator drawings go, I wonder if Felicia has maybe been down there herself. Maybe she has seen parts of it. Maybe she has more insights on what they do. But I also want to know if they're sending a guy, who is that guy? Right?
I don't know if we're moving too fast, but you know when Coel came back to the building, there was this one weird guy.
That's exactly who I'm thinking about.
Oh my Lord. Exactly he was so, I'm like, you are terrifying. You are terror. Are you the devil? Because he was just there and he stepped just one step forward. And I was like, okay.
No, that one step forward. Man, bodyguards, I feel like there's bodyguard university because these guys know how to do the smallest things that feel like the biggest threat.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, even if I was feeling confident / intrigued or just enjoying the scene, the moment that guy just took a half step forward, I was like, we need to leave. We need to leave now. Oh my God. Like, I realized in that exact moment, if you follow these people, they will kill you. Let's think about Helena's words. You've overestimated your contributions and you've underestimated your blessings.
Yeah.
Now, when someone says something like that, you think the deal is off the table, right? But what does she say instead? She said, let's reset. And then she calls for a meeting with the board. And then she says they'll see us now. Now, obviously, Coel is happy with this because in season 1, she was trying to meet the board in person. So she starts going, but then I don't know what she starts to look at, whether she looks at the car, she looks at the bodyguard guy, she realizes what time of day it is. It's hard to say like what it was that made her suddenly think, bro, I'm cooked if I go in here.
Yeah.
But she realizes that, and then she turns around, she backs away, then she turns around, and then she walks, and she walks a little faster, then she kind of skips, and then she gets into the car and she starts booking it. Like, this is yet another episode that is ending with Coel driving straight very fast and turning left. I'm wondering if that means something too. Like she's just escaping the entire time. I mean, did you guys think she was going to be okay? Because Helly, well, I guess Helena looked very, very, like, not really disturbed or upset
surprised
that she didn't come. She looked more frustrated, almost as if she was thinking, ugh, how are we going to get rid of this lady, you know?
Yeah. I really enjoyed their dialogue though. Like I can't lie, I really, really enjoyed their dialogue.
Those scenes are always tense. Like, you can literally feel that tension, like a weight on your head.
It's so good. It's so good. Like I said, it's amazing just watching this wild card versus this calm, composed, scary woman. That every word that comes out of her mouth is very intentional. Everything Helena says, she means it, and she chooses her words very carefully.
Yeah, she's truly the heir to the throne.
She is truly the heir to the throne. So I do enjoy their scenes. Whether Coel is okay, I don't know. I wonder where she's going though, and I really want to know what she knows.
I think it has something to do with her mother,
right?
Because they show that tube on the seat next to her as she's driving, the one that has her mother's name on it. I wonder if she's going back to her hometown. Shout out Attack on Titan people, but I don't know if that's something that's gonna make sense to us anytime soon, or if Coel even has a real quote unquote hometown. Because you would it's easy to assume that everybody in that town is kind of from around that town, but we see the number of miles it will be to drive there. I mean, maybe she's turned around because she's just like, actually, I'm not driving that far. I'm so sorry. Maybe she was just exhausted. Maybe she's like, nah, I don't have time for this. Because assuming she went to Lumen straight from turning around there, what made her turn around? What do you guys think?
I feel like Coel, she's been crashing out since last season, and I feel for her, she needs to relax and just chill. But I feel like the conversation she had with Helena, where she goes, she's done so much to be where she's at. I feel like she possibly went home and then she was thinking about her mom. And I feel like the reason why she's working at Lumen, she has an end goal that's related to her mom. So she was leaving, possibly going back home, and she sees the tube, her mom's tube, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to go back and ask for what I deserve. So that's why she went back to speak to Helena, saying, if I'm going to come back, I have things that should be on the table. I'm going to be manager of the Severance floor, because she has an end goal. She needs to be there to get something, to do something, I don't know what, for her mom. That's why she went back, because I feel like she gave up. After that conversation with Mark, she got so frustrated when Mark mentioned Gemma. And I started thinking, is she
responsible
jealous?
in some way?
No, I feel like jealous because Gemma is still alive and her mom is dead.
Interesting.
So she was going back. I don't know, I'm just thinking. And so she was going back home. Obviously, she gave up, going back home. And then she looks at the tube and the house, because there was a house in the field, if I'm not wrong, like a cottage.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you know what? I think I'm going to go back. And she goes back, says what she wants, and then she's like, oh, I think these people are going to kill me. Instead of giving me what I want, I have to leave. So I wonder what she's
look
going
on her
back
face, bro.
She's like, I'm gonna die here. I need to leave.
That is so wild. I mean, okay, you talked about what she believes she deserves. I'm curious to know what that is, because she comes and she says certain things should be on the table, as you've said, right? But the first thing she says is, I need to run the Severance floor.
Yeah.
Why? Why does she need to run the severed floor? Why is that so important to her? And what does that have to do with her mom? I guess that's the Coel question that I have at the moment.
I think she has something to do with whatever it is that is her intrinsic motive. It has something to do with Cold Harbor, and it also has something to do with the goats. If you watch the opening theme
with
credits,
goats too? Okay.
Yeah. If you watch the opening theme credits, you see her close the book of the goats. So, and it's
That's
her
so good.
overseeing the goats, and also the goats or whatever is on the grass grows. So there's some element of bringing to life or essentially nurturing life that Lumen is doing, that Coel is overseeing and wants to see through. So yeah, I think that's my own theory.
Okay. Well, all these stories are kind of intertwining, right? And one thing that stands out to me is, as I kind of alluded to earlier, is the outies intertwining with their innies, specifically in the area of motivation. Now, let's talk about Mark for a second and the GOAT room, simply because the version of him that was in that room, so assertive, so ready to fight, so ready to win, so ready to lead, and even convince these people that you guys are in danger too. Help us. And as obviously the whole time he's saying that, I'm just there like, bro, you're probably standing next to Helly and Egan saying all this stuff. I don't know if you're okay. Like, this is not good. But, you know, maybe that actually is Helly. But I suppose that's something we'll find out soon enough. But the main point is the way he kind of stood his ground there. If I was surrounded by all of those people, all of a sudden, and one of them is dressed like a goat, I might consider that it may be the end. But Mark was like, you know what, even if this is the end, I'm going to keep pushing. And I remember watching that and thinking, this guy is starting to sound a tiny bit cynical, like a tiny bit jaded, and a tiny bit fed up. And who does that remind us of? Audi Mark. Mark S is more and more resembling Mark Scout. And I feel like it's high-key the same thing for, I guess, even Irving, right? It's not the same for Dylan so far, but with all of this happening to Mark and everything he's ever said regarding reintegration, which I must legally mention that the board does not recognize. Now that Mark has actually integrated, I'll first ask, do we like the way this happened? Like the reason he decided to make the decision?
I mean, human beings we're curious people. I could just imagine losing someone that's so dear to me. It's been 2 years. They were burnt to ashes. I had to go recognize the body. I think it's a different scenario altogether if they tell you, okay, maybe the person disappeared or something. You'd really believe it. But this one it's a scenario where they've told you know this person is dead. You've had to recognize the body, and they're telling you the person is alive, and you've had two people that have essentially reacted in one way or the other to your wife's name. Surely I want to find out what is actually happening. I had this friend who had a chip in his head that died mysteriously and told me that this company is up to funny business. And I don't know what they do. The innies had to come and tell me that my wife is alive, and Mr. Milchick had to come in the middle of the night with pineapples. Coel told me, did they give you pineapples? You're so easy to sway. All those things in his head. The curiosity is burning. You want to find out what are these people up to. This is a build-up from season 1. Mark has been denying interest into any of Luma's business. He just wants to be severed. He doesn't care. Nobody wants to listen to him that he just wants to be severed, but he just wants to be severed. But now he's got to that point where, you know what? I actually want to integrate and find out what these people are actually doing and why everyone is so shaken at the sound of my wife's name. So, yeah.
You know, I started to wrestle with the idea that they caused her death and like it was kind of a fake scenario, because we don't know if Mark was in that car with her. Presumably he wasn't. So is this like a Theon Greyjoy situation where like they burned somebody else, or they burned like a corpse to make it look like her? But then how did he identify her, right? So maybe not. But the thing is, Regabi doesn't say anything about like, she doesn't allude to cloning. She doesn't allude to, you know, salvation of any sort. She literally just says she's alive. She was alive last time I saw her, which is like, bro, I knew. Like, I've known she's alive. And of course, he immediately asks, why didn't you tell me? And she's like, we were interrupted. So, I don't know. It's obviously hard because he's choosing to do this thing that he's fervently against. It's beautiful because he's giving away, like, being severed is what he wants. That's where he's currently finding his comfort and his balance. And he's willing to throw that away at the drop of a hat, just at the chance of one moment with his wife. Right? That's beautiful. But at the same time, I wonder, like, Regabi pulling out the wife card and using it in that moment. Obviously, she was probably always going to try and do that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I now wonder if there's another reason that she wants Mark to be reintegrated, right?
Yeah.
I thought maybe she was doing it for his own sake because she's trying to undo the bad that she's done. But, I mean, the fact that that happened and she's even like, oh, are you sure? As if she was thinking, I didn't expect it to work that quickly.
That quickly, yeah.
But it did.
I don't trust her.
Me too.
And it could even be, I know you said she's trying to undo the wrongs. It could literally just be that, but she's not out for anybody else other than herself, I believe.
Herself.
People like that are always pursuing their own self-interest. And just on Mark, I would just like to say, and I'll put this word out there, this PSA to the internet stan accounts of Mark and Helly. Please, can you see the burning love this man has for his wife? He's willing to go through heaven and hell.
I knew AJ would enjoy this. Like, once that happened, I was like, AJ is somewhere going,
Yeah.
Look, I don't have any ball in anyone's court, or I don't have any team, but let's not let's not
mess this up.
Yes, please. Let's put some respect on what are we going to call Jark? No, Mema, whatever it is.
We can just call them the Scouts.
Mark Gemma.
No.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, let's put some respect on them. He severed for her. He's unsevering for her. He would do anything for his wife. So yeah.
AJ, I take it you agree.
I agree. I feel like me, myself, like, I'd have taken less time to say yes. Because she said one sentence, she was alive the last time I saw her, something along those lines, and he was literally about to have a panic attack.
Yeah.
And sorry, pause.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm very unserious, but like, he was given, you know, the meme on TikTok, tonight to be the night that you guys don't know. Because of his hair. I'm like, dude, but anyways, he was literally about to have like
God.
a panic attack, and she's saying, if you do this and that, and he goes, yes. I'm like, yeah, I would say yes instantly as well. But my thing with like Regabi is that, like, for you to do this whole reintegration with someone, I feel like there's much more information you should share before someone does this, because she's so like vague with the things she says. Like, even, for example, she said season 1, she said PT didn't follow the instructions and he ran away, and I was thinking,
said, I'm better at it now.
Like,
excuse me,
like,
this is a surgery.
Yeah, like, who have you been testing all of this? Like, it's like you, and also she also said in season 1, I put the chip in your head. So I'm like, okay, you're like this with Lumen, and now you guys are like now fighting. Why? Can you inform me? Who are you? Why do you want to reintegrate people?
Exactly.
How do you practice?
Exactly.
Like, it's so many questions I feel also Mark should ask, but because he's so in love, which, as he said, is so beautiful, he's like, I don't care. Even if it's one day, 10 minutes, I get to see my wife, and he doesn't even know the lady is missing on the inside. So that's another issue. Yeah. But he's like, yes, like, let's go, like, do the whole thing. But I feel like she's very, it's like, we need to know more about this lady. Like, I don't fully trust her, but like, the last scene with him, I'm like, we're like, you're gonna give us this in episode 3, like, he's gonna reintegrate in episode 3. So I'm like, what's gonna happen in episode 4, 5, 6, 7? Like, wow.
Exactly. This is why I'm talking about the way it happened. And I want us to, really consider that, because that will then affect the approach for, how the rest of it plays out. Because obviously now he is supposedly reintegrated. We don't know if it's worked well. We don't necessarily know if it's something that's going to affect him, because obviously I'm worried about him because the last guy who got reintegrated is no longer with us. Like Coel drilled into his head at his own funeral. That's a bad way to go. So, so now, I mean, especially talking to you guys, especially Chinedu, who is very, very anti-reintegration. I know you've been joining the Whole Mind Collective, but I mean, do you have any like conflicted feelings about how this is going for Mark? Or do you now think, okay, because it's happened in this way and he's very sure reintegration might work for him? Because obviously I know one of your issues was the fact that two personalities are basically being joined. Like it could be quite, chaotic mentally.
Yeah, I still maintain the stance that people shouldn't reintegrate. I obviously understand why he took the decision that he took, but you can see even in the way that it's done that this is going to pose a problem to the person who does it. You're going to have a lot of memories flooding to you. We're talking about 2 years worth of memories that Mark is just going to be bombarded with every day, and we're talking about, where does that inner self go? I don't want us to obviously delve into a whole discussion again, but I still firmly believe that it's not the right thing to do. But again, I've talked about the burning love he has for his wife, so I completely understand why he did it. But I think he's going to struggle a lot. And we've talked about Ragabi. I don't trust her, and I don't trust the methods that she's used, and I don't trust her her motives rather. So we'll see how that plays out in the next few episodes.
Okay, fair enough. I just hope, he doesn't start to have hallucinations. One thing that really jumped out at me was the way Ragabi described reintegration in this episode. It wasn't just, let's undo Severance. This was, she gave it a purpose. She said the only way to take information in and out of Lumen is reintegration. Like she said, that's it, because that's what Mark is trying to do, right? He and Dylan and Devin are trying to burn information into his retinas. I mean, the whole time I was doing that, I was like, yo, I remember trying that briefly as a child, and like it's fun, but
really?
I know you are not trying to do this for like a solid 2 minutes, bro. Do you not want to keep having eyes?
Is that what he was doing? I thought he was trying to activate his chip. Oh, okay.
No, he's not trying to activate his chip, bro. Like this guy was trying to, he's basically trying to do that thing where you look at the sun and then you can still see it for like 30 seconds afterwards. So that when he gets there, it's like, oh, who is alive?
Oh
like, bro,
God.
when you don't know what happens in that elevator, like
that's so hilarious.
They're dilating your pupils. Like it's just funny. But yeah, I guess we'll learn how this is going to affect him. Since we're having our own visitation right now, I actually wanted to save one of the more quirky parts for last. Dylan actually gets his perk, and he's asking Miss Hong a lot of questions, and she's just like not forthcoming. She's really learned from her predecessor, Milchick. But what did you guys think of this scene as a whole? And because I mean, the whole time I was watching it, I kind of tried to put myself in the shoes of Gretchen. Yeah, like
I have one question.
Was that weird or was that endearing?
I have one question. Why does Gretchen call Mr. Milchick Seth?
That's a good question. Maybe he introduced himself as such. That's the only way I would know. But I mean, she also
Mr.
has to
Milchick
make sure she doesn't reveal
us...
too much about the outside, as Miss Hong was saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Have we heard Mr. Milchick referred to as Seth before this episode? And then we hear him referred to as Seth twice in one episode.
That's a good point. That is a good point, I have to say.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
What do you think the significance of that is?
They're too comfy. Like, she cheating on Dylan. Like, on first name basis.
Wild.
Oh my god. Maybe that's why he was able to punch him properly in the room in the finale. Anyways, I think it was very creepy. It was not endearing at all. She told him she loves him. I can imagine it from his own point of view. I'm just meeting you for the first time, lady. What do you mean you love me? So
well, I mean, the only other thing, like, I'm aware that, for example, Coel, called him Seth at least once in season 1. That's how we found out his name, right? That's like, this isn't the first time that we've referred to him as Seth Milchick, even on this podcast. But I think the fact that people are getting familiar with him is somewhat interesting to me, especially now that he's moving up the ranks. But I was thinking about Gretchen throughout the recording. I mean, and she's played by Merritt Weaver, by the way, who is always fun to watch. I think the last thing I saw her in, I think it was Roar, which is another Apple TV show that I do not have time to explain right now. But before that, I saw her in Run, which is an HBO show that was partly produced by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, which is always a fun thing. And she has this way of quietly bringing out the quirkiness and confusion in the people she's playing, especially when it feels like she's the one who is on edge. And I love the questions she was asking and the way she was asking them. She's like, do you really not know me? And Dylan's response to that isn't like, why would I know you? But like, that technically is the vibe of his response, because like, there's no way he'd know who she is. But she's kind of going with it. And props to Gretchen for actually pushing through, showing him pictures of the kids and everything. But one thing that's interesting to me here is she inadvertently shatters Dylan's image of his Audi self.
Shit is a
That's
bomb.
something that he's held on to, that's been driving him. Like, remember him talking about his delts? Like, he is partly motivated because he knows that whatever he's doing here is helping his Audi be like the coolest person ever. And not ever since he learned he has a family, he's probably been thinking about, how his Audi is being there for them. But then she goes and tells him that, he never really found his thing. It's like, oh, is he dumb? No. It's like, she's all these questions. It's like, and she's like, no, there's nothing wrong with him. But Dylan can't accept that, because all he knows is productivity leads to results, leads to recognition, leads to perks. That's it. That's his whole life. He doesn't understand the nuance of anything else. He doesn't know what it's like to be an adult who's, dealing with responsibilities. I mean, on the outside, we get to see that Gretchen is, well, at least she seems to be a security guard. And like, she's gone the whole night. She leaves the kids with Dylan. He is reading Ricken's book for whatever reason. And he doesn't know.
How did he get to it?
Bro, maybe Ricken actually is who he says he is. maybe he's famous and people are actually buying this book. I mean, I don't know. It's funny because, Dylan obviously doesn't know like the kind of dynamic that his Audi has with his family. And he thinks that they live on a cattle ranch because of the way they're dressed, because nobody has ever told him about like, costumes. So, I mean, I feel like from her perspective, it was really, really weird. And I wonder if, and I kept thinking, is this something she's going to do again? Like, would she do this again? Like, if it was me, like, I've gone and I've done this now. It's like, okay, yeah, I know this was great for you, Annie Dylan, but this was very weird. Like, she's talking to her husband, but she's not talking to her husband.
Yeah.
But like, is she then going to develop a relationship with both of them? Like, how does that help her? Because if she keeps coming here, then she essentially now knows two different versions of her husband. Is that good for her? Is that good for her relationship with the kids? Like, what good does this do? Like, I'm curious to learn what this quote unquote perk will imply, not just for Dylan, but for everybody else, because they're going to find out. They're definitely going to find out that this happened. And it's also hilarious to me that, Milchick had said that this was a new renovation, not an addition, a renovation.
Yeah.
And they switched out the security room for this That's the renovation. So that's just proof that the security room was always just for show.
Yeah.
It was never a team. It was just Grainer. And now Grainer is gone. They don't need the room. They probably put all the security stuff, like all the stuff to track people's, the OTC in a place that these guys can no longer access.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel it's also also manipulative that they would use that room for something Dylan would like. Like, okay, this is where I find out that I could see or live my outside life, or you could turn me on outside, and now you're also using it as a place where I could actually see people from outside. I feel like it was a bit twisted, because also the break room, them saying, okay, this is a place of safety, no cameras, we're not going to torture you. I feel like it's still like twisted in the mind, because this is not what I know this place to be, but now I'm meant to be okay being in this space. It's like, these people are
dubious.
evil. Yeah.
It's so dubious.
Yeah. I think the entire visit itself was manipulation. Just obviously the room was created to manipulate him. The entire visit was manipulation. I'm curious to see where this goes, because maybe I have trust issues with the show now, because even that final scene where she says, where he asks her, oh, how did that thing with Lumen go? And then she said, it was, the thing with me.
It didn't even have much of an impact on her, because I'm sure she left there and immediately was like, I need to, what just happened? That was a look on her face.
So, and the Innies are going on their own, they set out to find out answers, but they're not finding the answers together. And it doesn't seem like they're on the same wavelength at the moment.
Are they still going to share notes? It's not like they have a closet to go into anymore and plan.
Maybe it was Lumen's plan the entire time, because like you said earlier, Irving was supposed to go out and share Miss Casey's picture in OND, but he just goes there to reminisce about Bert. Dylan, even when Irving asks him to go out with him, he turns it down. And this is the same guy that was trying to support him.
Because now, it's because of that whole visitation suite thing. Like he wants to make sure he earns that perk.
Yeah.
He now, it basically, Milchick's plan has worked.
Exactly.
Like Dylan now has something that is keeping him in conflict from the others, internal conflict from the others. Like they're not going to know what's happening. But from their perspective, it's just like, why is he being weird? Like, why is he acting different? They're
playing an excellent game with the four of them, to be very honest. Excellent game. It's a brilliant chess match so far, sorry. So we'll see.
Yeah. But late stage capitalism? Perhaps it's late stage capitalism. I think when you consider the fact that we don't even know truly what era this is happening in, because I'm always confused about the fact that they have analog technology. I thought maybe that was just for the 7th floor so the information doesn't get out. But they use analog technology on the outside. Their cars are also a little bit older, but they have smartphones. Somebody help me here.
They have smartphones.
Yeah, they had smartphones. Helena called the board on the spot.
Oh yeah.
She did it right there. Like her screens flashed. Like this was a smartphone. And like we've seen other people use phones on the outside. Like we see Mark using a phone when he's at Pips in season 1 after he hurts his head and they gave him that VIP thingy thing.
Yeah.
Before Petey meets him. Like they have phones, but like their TVs are old, their cars are old. Like I just don't know. It could be an alternate universe. Again, I have ideas. I'm thinking, like I find myself thinking about these episodes, and then when it comes to the season as a whole and the world of the show, I feel like so many different theories are cooking. It's amazing what they're doing here. But yeah, I think this is a good place to call it. Any final thoughts before we go, or any recommendations for the people?
I think my final thoughts would just be watching this episode, the Severance universe is a very dull universe, but they manage to make it colorful every time. I don't know how to explain that properly, but
even though it looks beautifully drab.
Yeah, exactly. It looks so
Shout out
good.
Bo Williman.
It looks so boring, but so good boring. So yeah,
it's nice.
Shout out to them.
I'm gonna actually part ways with a recommendation. I saw One of Them Days recently. That movie, the movie with SZA and Keke Palmer. AJ, I know you watched it too.
Yeah.
Was it funny?
That one was not quietly chaotic. That was very loudly chaotic.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that all the stuff in that film happened in one day.
One day.
Really?
Definitely go watch that. It's definitely a fun experience from them
is very funny. So I think they've done a good job in like enticing interest from people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening up until this point. Please make sure to listen to everything else that we're covering. Check out Bankole and I's conversation on Sing Sing and creative movies. And keep watching Severance. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Please let us know in the comments, wherever you're listening. And until next time, be well.